After nearly 18 years together, it finally happened. After almost 18 years, the Mrs. is with child. It has been an emotional roller coaster the last week. Hashtag hope full story below for those interested. After nearly 18 years, PCOS, endometriosis, anemia, surgeries, a miscarriage, 12 years ago, less than 4 weeks, hormones, tests, heartache, tears, and thousands of dollars, it finally happened. The Mrs., 35F, and I, 40M, had all but given up hope on having a biological child. And it all happened out of the blue. On Monday of this past week, the Mrs. worked early, said she got to work, and was feeling a bit off. Her ladies' time had been regular for the first time ever for about the last year. She was late a month or so. Decided to take a pregnancy test at lunch, which was positive. Said she was going to wait until she got home to tell me. A few hours later, she began bleeding. She left work and called her sister, who is an RN, who said she was probably miscarrying and gave her advice on what to do. She came home. I could tell she was distraught, and when she told me, I was totally gobsmacked. Felt like a totally cruel joke that she would find out that she was pregnant and then start miscarrying hours later. On April Fool's Day, no less. The next morning, she made an appointment with a doctor we had been to previously. The appointment was for today, Friday. So the whole week, we are both dreading that day. It was like a black cloud over our home, making everything dark and gray. It put us both in a bad place. I am rather ignorant of a lot of things concerning female anatomy and pregnancy, and had major panic over what she might have to physically endure. DNC? Surgery? Knowing that mentally, she felt less than a woman for not being able to carry a child. I have hardly slept a wink in days. We went in this morning, and they started with an ultrasound. As soon as that little bean showed on the monitor, I saw a little flicker of rhythmic light flashing. Seeing that little heartbeat took my breath away. For the first time in my life, I bawled in front of my wife and a stranger. To make a long story short, she is almost 7 weeks along. The doctor said Mama and the baby are fine. Nothing that had occurred up to this point was uncommon. He also stated that if the baby makes it to 12 weeks, our chances increase greatly. We had went to this appointment expecting sad news and left that office today with the greatest amount of hope we have had in a long time. I know a lot of women suffer with many of the same issues my wife has had. At one point, a different doctor had said it was highly unlikely that she would have a viable pregnancy at all. I know we are not out of the woods just yet, but I feel it in these old bones that our time is now. Even if this little bean doesn't make it to a full-blown human, it is still possible. There is hope. In the meantime, I'm gonna pamper the shit out of my blue-eyed girl. Comments. Risky lady. So happy for you. Made me tear up. Please give an update at 12 weeks. OOP. I have ugly cried intermittently all day. I have never been more grateful in my entire life. Affectionate poet, 4586. This is such wonderful news. We are expecting our second grandchild this summer. He and his sister are both IVF babies, so I know what my son and DIL went through before they ever said a word to us. Please check back in with us. If you don't mind, I'll send along a few prayers for everyone's well-being. OOP, that is awesome. Thank you so very much. Update, 6 weeks later. 12-week scan. Myself, 40M, and my wife, 35F, had our 12-week doctor visit today as my wife is currently 12 weeks and 3 days pregnant. I am happy to report that Mama and baby are perfectly happy and healthy to this point. Doctor remains optimistic and has been incredibly supportive in dealing with some of the concerns and anxieties that the Mrs. and I have both had. This whole experience has been the best kind of overwhelming. I had lost hope for the future in the last couple of years. With sudden deaths, familial breakups, and life problems, there had been many nights that I prayed the Lord to take me as I was too much of a coward to do it myself. And now, I have rediscovered the fire and drive of my youth. I am bound and determined to give this child a happy life. I can't wait to show and teach them the things that I was never taught or told. I am bound to continue on improving my health so that I have a better shot at making it far into their adulthood. My number one goal in life now is to someday unleash this kid out into the world educated, confident, empathetic, understanding, compassionate, happy, and kind. I love them so much already. November can't get here fast enough. Comments. Environmental_ad 5936. We made 21 years last Friday, and honestly, thanks for the hope. Congrats on new life. OOP. If the experience has taught me anything, it is that there is always hope. We were told it would probably never happen. If it can happen to us, it can happen to anyone. Best of luck, kind Redditor. Update 2 months later. Gender reveal. We had a gender reveal party on the day she was 20 weeks and found out we are going to be having a sweet little girl. This was on a Sunday. We were both over the moon and couldn't stop beaming leading up to our doctor's appointment a couple days later on Tuesday. Went in on Tuesday for the 20th week appointment. They did the anatomy scan. Baby was perfectly healthy. Had all 10 fingers and toes. Was estimated to be about 1/3 larger than average expected at that date. Our doctor came in at the end of the appointment. Said he saw on the ultrasound that my wife's cervix was shorter than he would like and that she had already dilated a centimeter. My wife, as always, remained as cool as a cucumber while my insides felt like a volcanic eruption. They admitted her to the hospital. Were set to perform a circlage, which they did the following day. To make a long story short, everything went incredibly well. Our doctor and the surgeon both seemed optimistic, though I know we are not completely out of the woods. They allowed us to go home after 4 days. My wife is expected to be on bed rest for the next 8 weeks, and we have to go to the doctor every 2 weeks until our little girl arrives. We will also come back between 36 to 37 weeks where the cerclage will be removed and nature should then take its course. We officially hit 22 weeks today. My wife and I would both like to thank everyone for the well wishes, prayers, and good vibes sent our way on our journey from you fine folks here at Reddit. Hopefully, the rest of this pregnancy will be super boring, and my next post will be about the arrival of our miracle little angel. Comments. Toad_enjoyer. Emma, be honest. At first glance, I thought that was a tornado coming up behind you. Leather_dragonfly 529. In some ways, a baby is like a forever tornado of chaos and love. Update, 3 months later. Tiger Lily. Literally 2 days after my last post, at just past 20 weeks, we went to one of our doctor's appointments where they found my wife had dilated a centimeter, and her cervix was quite short. She was admitted immediately where they performed a cerclage. We spent a few scary days at the hospital, but everything turned out fine and the pregnancy had progressed as it should. The cerclage was scheduled to be removed on October 28th. After everything that had occurred, ourselves and the doctor figured our little girl would be here a little sooner than her expected November 24th due date. We were expecting a possible Halloween baby. Fast forward a bit past the 34-week mark. Wednesday, October 16th was my birthday. I was awakened violently at 4:30 a.m. by my wife, telling me that her water had just broken. Initially, I thought she was joking, but I could see in her eyes and demeanor that she was not. To make a long story short, we rushed to the hospital and approximately 12 hours later, our little girl had arrived on the same day, in the same hospital that her pop, me, had been born 41 years prior. At 4:16 p.m., our most precious tiger lily came roaring into the world, weighing 5 pounds 4 ounces and measuring 18 inches. Being born at less than 35 weeks, it was mandatory that she be brought to the NICU. They currently have her hooked to a bubble CPAP, and 4 for preventative antibiotics, a feeding tube, and placed in what is for all intents and purposes an incubator to keep her warm. She is already meeting or exceeding the metrics set forth by the hospital and her doctors. They have tripled her food intake in the last 40-ish hours. She is regulating her own body temperature, and they took her off the CPAP today. She is perfect, y'all. Her little features so well defined. It is as if she was carved out of marble by a master Italian sculptor. Her eyes as blue as the waters of the Caribbean. Skin as soft and flawless as freshly bloomed rose petals. And the aura of a star. We are so in love with this child that we can't even take our eyes off of her. My wife and I would really like to thank everyone who has followed our family journey, especially those who have reached out offering kind words, prayers, and good vibes. Much love, Reddit. Comments. Lissa Goik. Aw, what an awesome birthday gift. Congratulations. AITA for giving the talk to my son's friend. So, I, 29M, have a son, Jack, 11M, who's friends with Tom, 12M. Recently, Tom moved in with us because his mom went to jail. I don't want to go into details here. Tom's going to be with us for at least 2 years. I used to be close friends with his mom, but we've drifted apart over the years. Despite that, Jack and Tom stayed mates, and they even go to the same school. Since Tom's been living with us, he's been sharing a room with Jack, and I've always tried to be really open with Jack about bodies, hygiene, and growing up. My parents were super religious, and they avoided any talk about puberty and sex, so I pride myself on being honest with Jack, in an age-appropriate way, of course. Now, Tom, bless him, is very small for his age and clearly hasn't had the best care. He's been with us for just over 10 weeks now, and I've noticed he's been neglected in the past. He's asked me loads of questions about puberty, and honestly, it was clear he didn't know much about keeping himself clean. He'd come home from school smelling a bit off, and even after showering, his hair would still be greasy. So, I decided to sit both Jack and Tom down and give them a little talk about hygiene. I did it with both so that Tom wouldn't feel singled out, but the truth is, it was mainly aimed at him. I showed them how to properly wash themselves in the shower, how to clean their hair, and how to use deodorant. I even bought Tom his own shampoo, conditioner, deodorant, and some aftershave, so he had nice stuff just like Jack. That was about 5 days ago, and since then, Tom hasn't smelled bad at all and seems to be taking better care of himself. I felt good about helping him out, but when I mentioned it to my family, my brother was not happy. He said it was inappropriate for me to give that kind of talk to a kid who isn't mine. But in my mind, Tom is my responsibility right now. While he's living under my roof, I want to treat him the same way I treat my son. He said I had overstepped, and that it wasn't my place to give the talk to a child who isn't my own. He kept insisting that it should have been left to Tom's family, even though Tom doesn't really have family to step in, and if someone had done that with his son, he would have lost it. Honestly, he seemed to get very emotional about it, and I really don't understand why. I didn't give this talk to his son, even though honestly his son would benefit from a talk like that. And now he is not speaking to me, and my mom said I should apologize to keep the peace, but I don't even know what I am meant to be apologizing for. Relevant comments. Beneficial_noise, 691. Not wrong. It's information. The lad needs to be a functioning adult, so I think that counts as parenting and is exactly what you are doing. Good work, OP. Honestly, he seemed to get very emotional about it, and I really don't understand why. I didn't give this talk to his son, even though honestly his son would benefit from a talk like that. Also, your brother MLSD likely reacted in anger because your actions highlighted to him that he hasn't had the hygiene talk with his kid. Misplaced anger is a common reaction to embarrassment at your own failings, so him getting angry is more likely because he's just realized you are a better parent to Tom already than he has been to his kid. Forward plenty. If your brother was sent to prison and his son had to live with you, then he might change his tune on discussions of hygiene and other matters. As long as you are acting, in loco parentis, you have the duty in fact to talk to him about these things and act in the child's best interest. Subspace is good space. You are an awesome temporary dad. Thanks for caring for Tom and truly caring. He is clearly taking it all on board, and you have possibly prevented years of bullying too. No idea what your brother's problem is. Just wait till he hears you have given the two boys healthy relationships and keeping safe talks. Update. Hi guys, this is an update to the post I made about 3 weeks ago. In that post I described how I gave a puberty/hygiene talk to my son's friend, who I am currently the legal guardian of while his mom is in prison. You can read the whole thing on my profile. My brother got really upset that I had done this, for some reason. Firstly, thank you to everyone who responded. I couldn't answer anyone as my account was banned because apparently my first post contained sexually suggestive content involving a minor. If you go back and read the first post, it is not at all sexually suggestive. I have no clue how it got me banned, but I filed an appeal to Reddit and they stood by their decision and said that it was sexually suggestive content. I am genuinely at a loss for how it could possibly be sexually suggestive. I would actually like anyone who's reading this to go back and read my original post and let me know if you think it was inappropriate at all. If so, that wasn't my intention, and I really do apologize. Some people were asking if it was possible that my brother was Tom's father, and although I haven't brought that up, I think it is unlikely. We did know Tom's mother when she was pregnant with Tom, but they never really had that type of relationship, and I can't envision my brother not raising a child of his. With my hygiene talk to Tom, I really opened the floodgates. He has since been asking me a lot of questions about puberty. I did say to him at the time he could come to me with any questions and I would answer them truthfully and non-judgmentally, which is the approach I take with my own son. In my point of view, if they are curious about something, I would rather explain it to them personally in an age-appropriate way than them either search online/ask friends and potentially get wrong or inappropriate information. I got a chance to speak with Tom's social worker and I told him that he's got a lot of questions, and he recommended I buy them both a puberty book and tell them to read it, and if they have any further questions to just carry on being open and honest in an age-appropriate way. Even though my mom said she thought I hadn't done anything wrong, she wanted me to apologize just to keep the peace. I admit I am a bit of a pushover and I have done this in the past, but this time I said no. We aren't kids anymore. My brother can't just throw a tantrum and get whatever he wants. I think you guys are probably correct in saying that my brother is projecting a little. His son is at an age where he really needs a talk like the one I gave my boys, and he seems to be failing in that department. Whenever I see my nephew, he has oily hair, smells bad, and doesn't seem like he's cleaned his teeth. My brother blames it on his son's autism, but if that really is the case, that's a failing on himself, not his son. It's his job as a parent to ensure your child's needs are met, and he is clearly not keeping his son's hygiene needs. Anyway, things are good on my end. Since giving the talk with Tom, he has really started to take pride in his appearance and in his hygiene. He has showers almost every night without prompting, and there have only been 1 or 2 occasions since where he's walked past me and I've though, oh man, you need a wash. But I think eliminating that completely is tricky for a preteen boy, honestly. He is also really settling in well, and Jack is loving having a friend stay with him. They keep calling themselves the Bacon Brothers, which is apparently a reference to the Roblox game they play together, but I don't really understand how. If you read this, thanks. I hope you all have a nice rest of your day. Relevant comments. Large_strawberry iPhone 67. I remember your first post. Calling it sexually suggestive is ridiculous. Good for you all round. My father died when I was young, and I had no male relatives I could ask personal questions. My mother got me a couple of books and they did help, but I would have loved to have someone like you at the time. Purple Chunky Monkey. That's not an autism thing. That's a puberty thing. My son is on the spectrum and knows to shower daily. He's 28 and is holding down a job.